welcome to Superstitions and Traditions. I'm Kristen, and we have Ray joining us today.
How are you? It's good to be here.
I'm glad you could join us, my co-host for the day. I like it. We are going to do an episode of Am I the Asshole together? So we will let you decide if he is the asshole or not.
Hopefully not me.
No, not you. Not you. It's not going to be you ever. We love you here at Superstitions. So
Well, it's the feelings mutual.
awesome. We appreciate it. I love having you on too. So you make us happy. How are
It's
the
always
new? You've got two new books out since we talked last.
I do. Two more Tales from Deranged Minds. We released them.
Awesome. I have my copies.
Oh, do you?
Uh-huh.
Wow, that's quick. I appreciate that.
No problem. I'm excited. Got some good stories in there. I haven't read all of them yet, but my daughter actually took them before I
Um,
could finish. So she told me she's in her spooky era right now.
well,
So
that's good.
yes, she is reading the ghost stories or scary stories.
Nice.
Yes. So today we said was Am I the Asshole? We are going to talk about Allan Pinkerton. So he wants to know, is he the asshole for eavesdropping and snooping through a camp he stumbled upon in a wooded area?
That doesn't start great.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't start great.
It doesn't look good for him so far.
Nope. All right. Well, here we go. As a Cooper, I spent quite a bit of time wandering through wooded areas looking for trees to make barrel staves from. On one such occasion, while walking through an area near my home in Dundee, Illinois, I overheard people talking about money. After listening for a while and watching, I realized the men were making fake coins. I stumbled upon a counterfeiting ring. I conducted surveillance, then notified police of my findings and assisted in making the arrests. I suddenly found myself called upon from every quarter to undertake matters requiring detective skill. Soon I was a small town sheriff, briefly, then a special agent for the U.S. Postal Service. In 1849, my wife and I returned to Chicago, where I served as Chicago Police Department's first detective. In 1850, Edward Rucker and I, a Chicago attorney, and I founded the Northwestern Police Agency that I eventually renamed the Pinkerton National Detective Agency. My slogan, "We never sleep," coupled with the unblinking eye used to name, oh, sorry, coupled with the unblinking eye led to the name Private Eyes. My company quickly became the go-to for security in Chicago. As our popularity grew, I increased our force, hiring even the nation's first female detective, Kate Warren, who was instrumental in fumbling the first assassination attempt on Abraham Lincoln in 1861. We
Oh, wow.
provided military intelligence to Union Army during the Civil War and went on to be a nationwide detective agency.
Well, he sounds a lot better now.
Yeah. Yeah. So he started his detective agency, worked with a lot of railroads at first, and stopped train robberies because they were a big deal right at that time.
Yeah.
And then and I couldn't ever tell because it was kind of half and half on how Kate Warren came into play. And so I couldn't tell if he installed her in this clan of people that planned on assassinating Abraham Lincoln or if she came to him with the information. But one way
Oh,
or
okay.
another, she foiled the whole plot and saved Abraham Lincoln's life and ended up the first female detective.
Oh, that's amazing.
Uh-huh. And not long, so that was in 1861. By 1866, he had opened satellite offices in Philadelphia and New York, and eventually went all, they're still in business today, actually, all
Oh,
over
really?
the world. Yeah.
Oh,
They
wow.
were purchased by another company in Europe somewhere and are run under it. But
Hmm.
so
You're just full of knowledge, huh?
the well, it I read. I read. I love to read. And I was reading a book about the disappearance of a socialite during the 1800s, and they had hired
Oh,
the Pinkerton agency to help find her. So at the start of it, when they were working on the railroad and protecting the cars and helping provide security for the railroad, everybody loved Pinkerton.
yeah.
Um, but then police officers, like actual police forces, when it came to like disappearances or solving crimes, they ended up coming to blows with Pinkerton because Pinkerton would sneak in there and get their surveillance, but not share what they know with the police. So then there was
Oh,
a
okay.
little, like, I don't know, turf war or something between them. So, and then they were also hired, the public kind of angered with them because after the Civil War, they worked for businesses to break strikes. They were strike breakers.
Oh, okay.
So then, average person wasn't a big fan of Pinkerton at that time.
Yeah, that's less cool.
Yeah, yeah, that's less cool. Um, he more than likely wasn't involved in it himself. He died in 1872. So
Oh,
by the
okay.
time they started with the strike breakers and things like that, it was whoever he passed his business down to. So
Yeah.
not necessarily him. So we can, save his reputation from that one. We won't judge him for that. But they caught one of the big gangs. And I had never heard of them before, but it was a train robbing gang. They caught them. They caught several other small time, little petty single person or dual person robbery spree type things.
Yeah.
And they were hired. He was hired by the police and the federal government to get Jesse James.
Oh, really?
And that was his biggest defeat. He never could catch him.
Oh.
Um, and he had one of his undercover agents installed in a farm as a farmhand next door to one of Jesse James's known associates, where he stopped by quite a bit and they discovered him and killed him. And
Oh, wow.
Pinkerton took that like to heart. He that was his biggest defeat. That was so they pulled the contract. The government pulled the contract, and the railroad and police agency that all had hired him. But he chased Jesse James on his own after that and still never caught him.
Oh, so he took it personal.
He took it personal. When he lost one of his agents, he took that
Well,
really personal.
I could see that.
Mm-hmm.
That would be rough for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, so he was born in Scotland and he fled to the US as a young adult. He had joined with a social movement and political movement that was trying to kind of overhaul how the government ran. Try it. They were associated with the Molly Maguires.
Okay.
Um, and his involvement in this organization led to a warrant being issued for his arrest. They were hanging
Oh,
everybody that they got. Like it was a slap quick trial. Everybody was guilty if they associated you with this group and they hung you. So he and his wife fled to the US. They settled in Chicago briefly, down to the land in Dundee, which is about 40 miles outside of Chicago, and
okay.
started his business there. And it wasn't within the year he had busted this counterfeit ring, making dimes. They were making fake dimes. I'm thinking if I'm going to counterfeit, if I'm going to make fake money, I'm going a little bigger than a dime. But I don't know. Maybe that was a good idea. I guess they don't suspect the smaller coins. Maybe I don't know.
Yeah, I would at least want to do the bills though.
Right, a dollar or something, quarter, even a quarter.
Yeah, that's pretty crazy.
Yeah, I think it'd be easy to counterfeit quarters right now because there are 500 different designs.
Oh,
Nobody would
really?
know if it
For
was
sure.
real or not.
Everybody just think it was a new one.
I knew it. Oh, we haven't seen this one. But he ended up,
So,
his father was also a police officer in Glasgow, which is where he's from, Scotland. But he died when he was real young. So he
okay.
didn't get to see his son, who had no intentions of following in his footsteps, actually kind of follow in his footsteps.
He sounds like he was really good at it too.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of a natural.
Yes. Yes. Anytime a socialite or they were hired to hunt them down, and when they disappeared or something happened, it was Pinkerton. Pinkerton was everybody's go-to for just about anything if it involved detective work or security. They were the forerunners to I just lost the name. They protect the president's Secret Service. They were the original Secret Service.
Oh, really?
Uh-huh.
So he was big.
Yeah. Yeah. And he also, when he died, they he slipped in his front yard, and but modern medicine has led us to believe more than likely he had a stroke
Oh,
in
okay.
his yard. But when he died, he was working on a centralized system for identifying criminals,
Oh, wow.
which is, the FBI took off with and has the database now. But he was the one who came up with that idea. If we can get pictures and mugshots and fingerprints and all of this and keep it all in one place, that was all him. He did that.
He sounds a bit ahead of his time.
Mm-hmm.
He seems like quite the detective for sure.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I don't know. I mean, I'm just thinking wandering through the woods and you hear people, they're involved in some crime. I'm not going to hang out. Uh, but he did. He surveilled or did surveillance for quite a while because he was going with facts. I'm going with suspicion. Like, listen, this is what I heard. You can go check it out for yourself because that's what my tax dollars pay you to do.
That's right.
But no, he did it on his own.
Yeah, usually spying on criminals in the woods isn't a good idea.
I don't think so either. No. I mean, it doesn't make you an asshole, but it does kind of make you stupid.
Yeah.
Unless you are Allan Pinkerton, and then it makes you wealthy and well known.
Yeah. That's that's pretty crazy.
Mm-hmm.
I've never heard of him before.
I hadn't either. I had heard of the Pinkerton agency just from books I had read, especially if it
Yeah.
involves like the Gilded Age, the late 1800s, early 1900s, any kind of history involving them. The Pinkerton agency sneaks in there somehow. So
Yeah.
I had heard of them, but when I talked to you and you said you would be willing to do an Am I the Asshole with me, I'm like, I got to find a good one for him. And so I was reading the book, and sure enough, Pinkerton snuck in there. And I'm like, I need to know about these people. How did this even come about? So that's how I stumbled upon him.
Oh, nice. Well, he doesn't seem like too much of an asshole unless you were on the wrong side of the law. Then
Yeah,
they probably didn't like him very much.
I'm sure he wasn't popular. They
I,
weren't
I
inviting him over for dinner or anything.
bet criminals think he's the asshole.
Yes. Yes, I'm sure they did. Criminals or socialites that tried to disappear from mommy and daddy to avoid a wedding. They weren't
Yeah.
big fans either. So, all right, I agree. I don't think he was the asshole either. Oh, another thing I forgot to mention, he was an abolitionist, and his Dundee house was one of the stops on the Underground Railroad.
Oh, okay.
So I thought
Wow.
that was neat. He actually was hired by Spain, the country Spain, to go into Cuba to like quash a rebellion there, which he did because he really didn't research what he was going in to do and helped keep slavery in Cuba a couple years longer.
Oh,
That was the rebellion, but as far as the US, he
yeah.
fought
That's not that one's not great.
no, no,
But
check what you're defending there, I guess.
governments can be tricky for sure.
Uh-huh.
They like to leave out a lot of facts sometimes.
And at the time they hired him, they had already abolished slavery in the country of Spain. So, but their colonies were still under slavery.
Oh, wow.
You know, go into it half the info. He knew Spain had abolished slavery. You would assume the countries or the colonies that are under them would have too, but that wasn't the case. So,
Huh.
yeah.
Well, that doesn't make him an asshole, just uninformed.
Uninformed, yes. Yeah, that was really common too, because there wasn't a whole lot of good crop farmland in Europe
Yeah.
and England. So they didn't really have as big a need for workers in fields.
Oh, okay.
So they would look good abolishing slavery on their continents,
Yeah.
keeping it in the colonies where there's good soil and you can have a huge plantation for another 10 or
Oh,
15 years.
yeah, that makes more sense that way.
So, so pat my back because it's not here, but we're not going to tell you what's going on down there.
Just leave out a little information.
Yes, just a little bit.
That makes Spain an asshole, I think.
It does. It does. Spain, Britain did the same thing. Like, oh, we will abolish slavery here. But all of their colonies where you can grow sugar and tea and tobacco and cotton and all these luxury items, all these luxury plants, they kept the slavery going there for another 10, 15, 20 years.
For as long as they could.
As long as they could. So,
That's nuts.
but, all right. Well, I agree. He's not the asshole. They should have done a little bit more research on a few of their cases.
I don't get to call him an asshole, but I'll call Spain and Britain an asshole.
I'm agreeing with you there. Yes. Yes, for sure. And the strike breakers, like
Yeah,
they did some, it wasn't just politely asking workers to return to work. It was coming
yeah, I'm
out
sure.
armed and beating them and, trying to force them back to work, however
His
necessary. So that was
his was
deadly.
wild.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. The start of workers' rights in the US and probably everywhere. I just don't know the history of workers' rights outside of the US, but ours here, like there was some dirty stuff happening to keep people working and working for nothing
Yeah,
practically. But
yeah,
yeah.
they're assholes.
Yeah. But yeah, well, I agree with you. He's not the asshole, but everybody else feel free to let us know what you think. If you disagree with us, you shouldn't, because Ray and I know everything. But
I, you're a lot smarter than I am,
I don't I like history. I don't know if I'm smarter or not, but I like history. So
but
but all right. Well, I appreciate you joining us.
thanks for having me. It was fun.
It was. Come back anytime.
Of course.
All
Anytime
right. Well, I
you
will.
want me, I'm here.
All right. I'll be in touch. We'll have you back soon.
All right, sounds good. Have a good night.
You too. Thank you.
You bet. Bye.
Bye.